So let's get started. Welcome to the July 2020 Storytelling Slam Mad Robot, Mad Zoombot, I should say. I am very, very sorry to announce bad news at the beginning, but we'll get it over with. The Mad Robot Bar, pub, whatever you want to call it, beloved by me. I don't know how many of you, but it was very, very good to us. It has unfortunately become the latest casualty of the COVID virus. It is no more. And we were working there for 2 years. They were in very good communication with Tom, my husband's theater. Were working together on things, and it really breaks my heart. But it happens, and what can you do? This is what happens. So I am very glad to see all of you here, and it may be for a little longer than we had thought. I had originally thought we were going to be doing this for a couple months. I will start as things clear up in Florida sooner than rather than later, I hope. I will start to look for another home so that those of us, at least who are in the area, can enjoy. We have many more people who have said they're going to be in on the event, but these things happen. I think we're going to get started with our number one storyteller. Before we do, I'd like to go through the rules or the requests or whatever you'd like to call them. And they are the following. This is a friendly competition of storytelling. There's a long, long tradition of storytelling competitions. We do have a prize, and that prize will be determined by my anonymous judges. Say hello, anonymous judges. I was just tricking you. No, no, no. None of you who waved are actually anonymous judges, so that's a good thing. My anonymous judges are absolutely anonymous, and they're too smart to wave when they're actually the judges. And they are going to choose the winning storyteller based on a couple of criteria, and they are the following. Number one, is it a story as opposed to a rant, as opposed to an essay, as opposed to a poem? Is it a story that is not read, not memorized? We're looking for connection here. We're looking for people to look in each other's eyes, even if they're Zoom eyes. We're looking for people to listen. We're looking for people to share. So I would tell you that that's the first thing. We're looking for a true story from your life, about 5 to 7 minutes in length, please no longer than that. Number two, the judges are going to base their votes for first and second place based on their private feeling about the story. Does it touch them? We are not looking for superstar performers. We're not looking for people who can get up on a Broadway stage and belt something out. We're looking for authenticity. We are looking for people who really want to connect. Unlike other slams in the world, this one is purely about, I want my story to be heard. I want my voice to be heard. I don't give a theme. I just want us to get to know each other and share with each other through story. So that's the idea. We have one slot, possibly two slots left. So please, if you are interested at any time between stories, just let me know. One or two other requests before we get started. I ask you please not to send notes back and forth on chat, since the idea here is for us to be listening to each other. I will give you lots of time to make your announcements, to make your suggestions, to make your complaints, whatever you want, in between stories. We're going to try it that way, since I have very little to promote. And this way, everybody gets to share what it is, what's on their mind. Oh, there's Tanya. Great. Tanya, welcome. You are storyteller number 9. Okay, I think that's it. More things may come up, but I think we can get started and I can stop talking. So let's hear it for our first storyteller, who is actually in traffic, so we may hear a little bit of noise in the background. Know that it's not her stomach, it's not anything but the car moving along. There it is. Let's hear it for Lucrece.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and happy Sunday. It is so great to see you all. Karen, as you know, I'm traveling. That's true. I hope the noise is not too bad. Is it bad?
Well, you are just, your voice is a little garbly. That's all. I don't know if you did something different between the time we talked and now. You're garbling just a little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see.
We've
Okay,
never had. Oh, go
what
ahead.
about now?
A little better, yeah.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. This is a new one for me, and Zoom telling stories in a car. Wow, I tell you, I love stories because we can do it all the place. But my name is Lucrece Louis Donwinis, on my way to Leesburg with my good friend Nadege and her child and her kids. And so I wanted to participate today because July is my father passed away a year ago, and this is in memory of him. He was bigger than life, always laughing, always find something to make somebody happy. No matter what you tell my dad or situation that he's in, it turns into a story. So as far as I'm concerned, he's the best storyteller that I've ever met because again, he just does it as it goes. But this story took place about 20 years ago. My father came to visit me in Pembroke Pines, where I live with my husband and my son. And at the time, I was very, very sick from a trip that I took to Ghana, Africa. On behalf of the library, I used to work for the Miami-Dade Library, the art of storytelling. And on the way back, on my way back, something happened to me, and none of the doctors to figure out what was wrong. When my dad came to visit, he was very intense and very reflective. Then he started asking me questions. What have you done? Tell me everything you did from the time that you knew about this trip. So we started talking, and of course, I related how excited I was that to go to a different country and talk about libraries and stories, especially Ghana in West Africa. Wow. Then I related that I had to take medication and vaccines, and one of them is something called chloroquine or something like this for malaria. And that got his attention. He got up abruptly and said, "That's it. Ça, c'est ça. Oui, c'est ça. C'est médicament ça. C'est médicament ça," in Haitian Creole. So he said, I said, "Oh my God, Papi, you think so?" Didn't we? Yes, because as a child, you reacted violently to this vaccine when they give it to you. And I was maybe, I don't know, maybe 5, 6. They used to do, vaccine in Haiti. Then we called the doctor immediately because the doctor was very close to me, always taking care of things and calling me. So we explained all of that. He started doing some tests and medication, and I got better. Now, we spent the rest of the afternoon laughing and then telling stories. My dad has always been very close to me. He knew anything that happened to me, although he lived in Haiti. He traveled several times a month to the States, Europe, wherever his business took him, but I could just call him, and he knew from my voice if something was wrong. But that day, that particular amazing day that I remember so clearly, here's the story that he shared with me. It's called Memize. Quick, and I'll answer for you guys. Crack. All right. So Memize, as my father started, was an old lady. She lived in the forest in her own house, and of course, she had everything she wanted in that house. But she was far from people, the way she liked it. Her garden was amazing. So many trees, so many plants, and everything. Now, Memize had one tree in her yard that she loved most, and that was an orange tree. They were big and juicy, and she just loved that tree. But she had one major problem. The closest neighbor to her was like miles away, but the kids of that neighbor, 4 boys, after school every day, just and come take some eat them and drop them on the ground. And that's the part she didn't like, the waste. You can't hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We're having some trouble hearing you a little bit. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
It was fine, and then we got some weird noises in there.
Well, probably because of the road. Sometimes you pass by.
Okay,
Can you hear
now
me
it's
now?
better. Now it seems to
It's
be
better.
better.
I don't know how much you left and you lost.
We were in with the orange tree. We had just met the orange tree.
Okay, and we got to the boys that are coming every afternoon and eating the tree.
Yes.
Okay, so from there, she was very disturbed that these boys would come in, eat not only eat the oranges but also waste them. So she wanted to find a solution to that. Well, one evening it was raining, and this old man came in and knocked on her door and asked for shelter. So Somiza, being who she was, basically opened the door and invited him, get him to dry himself. And she asked him, of course, would you like something to eat? And the man said, well, I don't want to put you out. He said, no, 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 no. Whatever I have, I can share. She didn't have much, but she did share with them. The next day, the gentleman got up, ready to leave. And then he asked her, Somize, I want to thank you so much for asking, which I would like to do something for you. What can I do for you? So the Somize said, well, you know, I don't need anything. I only have one little problem. What is that? He says. These boys are coming here every time to come in and eat and waste my oranges. I would love to find a way to stop them. So the man said, okay, I can do that. I'll show you something. So he showed her a little trick to do like this. One, two, and around. One, two, and around the tree. So the next day when the boys came in, Somize went in. And Somize, the boys went on the tree, try to do all of that and take the oranges and drop them on the floor. And Somize walked in and did exactly what the old man told her. One, two, and round. One, two, and round. When the boys got ready to leave, they could not leave. They were stuck in there. There was like an old invisible net that kept them in there. They cried for hours, 2, 3 hours. They got scared. Finally, Somize came out and said, now, are you going to leave my tree alone? So there they were. She let them go. But the next night, Death came to visit Somize. Somize said, I can go yet, Mr. Death. Give me 6 months. Death said, no. 2 days, no. I said, okay, that's all right. One thing I need, please help me to eat at least one of my mangoes before I go. So Death went on the tree, said that's reasonable enough. Went on the tree to get her the mangoes. So Somiza went in 1, 2, 0. 1, 2, 0. She trapped Death up there. And if you go in Haiti right now and you find a woman who seemed like she'd be living forever, well, that's Somiza. That was my dad's story in Creole. Mais merci beaucoup, cric, crack. Hope you all like it. And it was just a
Thank
cute
you.
story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to mute. Oh, I will mute you. And we appreciate, we understand the sound difficulty, and I appreciate so much that you could do that from the car. Now, one thing I always forget, at least one thing when I'm giving the instructions. One thing I want to remind you all: I will do this at 5 minutes, and you can wrap up at any time. 6 minutes, you can wrap up at any time. 7 minutes means you really got to finish. Okay, so 5, 6, and 7. So, for those of you who came in after we started, I've got a sad announcement, which is that the Mad Robot Brewing Company, where we started this particular series of slams almost 2 years ago, is no more. It fell victim to the COVID virus. We will be continuing these slams on Zoom anyway, of course, because we have not determined that it's safe to meet anywhere. But in the future, just stay tuned. We will find somewhere else, and we will absolutely get together somewhere. At least for those of us who are in the country and in the state, we will make this work. It really breaks my heart, but that's what happens. Okay, our next storyteller so that was my announcement. Our next storyteller of the day, let's put our hands together for somebody who she's the first person I ever heard tell a story in public. And I have told her the story over and over again. And when I heard her tell that story, perform that story, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to learn how to do this. She is the best. And she's the best in other ways as well. But that's that's how I'm going to introduce Annette. Although this is really unfair because I don't introduce anybody else. But I just had to say that when I saw you. Let's hear it for Annette. I will unmute you, or can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to tell a different story this time, Karen. It's the story called Celia and the Hot Dogs. And the story is about my mother. I always refer to her as the Pied Piper of Brooklyn because everywhere she went, the kids always followed. We were 4 siblings, and my mother loved to go places and took us many, many places. And we were always encouraged to bring a friend along. So she could be traveling with 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 kids. Didn't matter to her, the more the merrier. But the story about Celia and the Hot Dogs talks about my grandchildren, her grandchildren, my sons. My sons, Stephen and Michael, were in the Cub Scouts, and we lived in Long Island at the time. And the troop was going into New York City to hear and see the New York Knicks play basketball. Very exciting time for them. They'd never been on a train. They'd never been to New York City, never been to a professional basketball game. But the night before the game, one of the chaperones called and said she was sick and couldn't go. So we called all the other parents and asked them if they could come along, and they all said no. And we were getting ready to cancel the trip when I said, hey, wait a minute, I know a chaperone, my mother. So I called her up and she said, of course, just tell me where and when. So we said we'd meet at the information booth at Penn Station the next day. And when we got there, she wasn't there. So I didn't worry about it. I said to the scoutmaster, give me a couple of tickets, go on in, and we'll meet you there. And I waited for her. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and she didn't come. And I got very worried because 2 things. Number 1, she was always early. And number 2, in my mind at the time, she was very old. She was somewhere around 55. So I had no idea where she was. So I got the idea to go to the station master and get her paged. And I was so stressed that when the time I got to his office, I threw open the door and I said, I've lost my mother. And he started laughing and he asked me for the information. And I gave it to him and I started walking back and I hear the page come over and I hear this guy say, we have a little lost mommy out there. Will Celia Burek please meet her daughter at the information booth? So I was elated. I went back to the booth and I figured she'd be standing there, but she wasn't. Now this was BCP, before cell phones. So I called my house. She hadn't called in. I called her house. There was no answer. I called one of my sisters. She hadn't heard anything. And I was getting ready to call the police. And I see her come running down the ramp into Penn Station, and she's got 2 shopping bags, these big brown shopping bags, 1 in each hand. And she says, I'm so sorry. The crosstown bus was late, blah, blah, blah. And I said, it's okay. Come on, let's go. So we go into Madison Square Garden, and we see there's not a block of tickets. The kids are scattered with chaperones. Some are like 2 seats down, a couple of rows down here, to the right, to the left. But we had 2 seats together, and we sat down, and my mother said, would you like a hot dog? And I said, sure. And I turned around looking for a vendor, and I feel her hand on my arm, and she said, hold this. And I turn around, and she's digging in these brown shopping bags. And at one, she pulls out a 2-gallon jug of boiling hot water with hot dogs in it. She had hot dogs, she had buns, she had sauerkraut, she had mustard, she had the utensils, she had bags of chips, 2 bottles of soda, cups, napkins. And she's sitting there in the middle of Madison Square Garden, and she starts yelling, Stevie, you want a hot dog? Yeah, Grandma. She says, what do you want on it? And she's sitting there in Madison Square Garden, Stevie, Michael, what do you want? Eddie, Wayne. And she's making hot dogs, asking people to pass them down. And everybody is sitting there just totally amused. I was shocked, and I was a little embarrassed. Well, it was a fantastic day. Several years later, my mother's 75 years old. We found out she never had a birthday party. So we threw a surprise party. And we invited all the kids that I grew up with, the kids my children grew up with. Everybody came. They came from California, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, Vancouver, one from Rio de Janeiro, Sweden, and London. Not one kid didn't make that party. And in the middle of the party, we're having all this fun, and somebody yells out, "Annette, tell the hot dog story." So every 5 years after that, we would make her party. She was 80, she was 85, 90, 95, she made it to 98. And every time there was a party, all the kids showed up, and somebody always said, "Annette, tell the hot dog story." So it was always the highlight of the get-together. It's one I'll never forget. Now that you've heard that story, I'm sure you'll never look at a hot dog in the same way again without remembering Celia, who I still like to call the Pied Piper of Brooklyn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annette. I gotta say, 2 people walked out, and you are disqualified for saying that 55 years old is old. I'm afraid. You know, I forgot to say that in the rules. You're not allowed to say that. We've lost 2 of our audience members now. You upset them so much. How do you feel about that?
I like you.
Thank you. We've had 2 great stories so far. We're off to a wonderful start. Does anybody have an announcement that you would like to make to the group about an upcoming event related in some way to storytelling or to your own something that you're doing yourself that people might be interested in? Anybody got an announcement? Lillian, you got an announcement? Can you unmute yourself or let me find you? Here, I will unmute you. Go ahead. Wait a minute. Go ahead. I unmuted you, but I don't hear you. I do not hear you. I'm sorry, there seems to be something wrong on your end. We can't hear you.
Oh.
There we go. I just got you. Hold on. There you go.
As a way of getting socially active during the coronavirus, because I live alone. So every Friday evening at 7:30, I have on Facebook Lillian's Room. You go to my Facebook page, you put Lillian Lewis, and you will see me. So I tell a story, but not story like you are telling now. I tell folk tales. I take a folk tale story, and after that, I teach to make something. The first week, it was just a story of Buki and Malice. The second week, it was a story plus a folk tale plus making of the beignet. The third week, just July 10, I teach them how to make marinade, fritters, codfish, and then this coming week, on the 17th, I will be teaching how to make the Haitian freedom soup, the pumpkin soup, which I have a book also on pumpkin soup.
Thank you.
So that's 7:30, okay?
7:30 this coming Friday. Thank you so much. And we will have a little time again to share this stuff afterwards. So that was a perfect amount of time for an announcement. Thank you so much. All right. Our storyteller number 3 happens to be Lillian. What great timing. So while you're sitting here, will you tell us your story? Let's hear it for Lillian. Wait, we lost you. Why are you, you're frozen. Can you come back to audio, Lillian?
Yes, I am trying.
There you are. Okay, you're on audio. We can't see that you're moving on your video. You're on audio. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
One.
Go ahead. There you are. It's time for Lillian.
No, wait a minute. Are you?
Time for you to.
I make an announcement.
Are you waiting? But it's time for you to tell your story now. You happen to be third, so it's time for you to tell your story.
I didn't say I was telling a story
Oh,
this week.
excuse me. I thought you did. Sorry, I
Well,
misunderstood you. No
if you
problem.
want a story, if you want
No,
a story, it has to be a folk tales.
no, that's fine. I misunderstood. I thought you had wanted to. No problem at all. So we have 2 slots, everybody, left. And we're usually a little smoother than this, but this is what happens not having seen anybody for 4 months. We have at least 2 slots left. So when anybody who is a guest or anybody who hadn't thought that they were ready to tell a story, if you want to, you are more than welcome to, because we take up to 10. And I apologize for that, Lillian. Our next storyteller of the evening is Larry. Let's hear it for Larry. Larry, can you unmute yourself, or would you like me to?
I think I did. Am I
There
unmuted?
you go. You are
All right.
unmuted.
Well, one thing I think I have in common with everybody on the call is we've all been 18 at one time or another. I'm just guessing there's nobody here under that age. So when I was 18 in 1965, it was spring break. Oh, I should tell you ahead of time. When you're that age, some of the hardest conversations you have start out with, Dad, I think there's something you need to see. So when I was 18 in 1965, I was on break from freshman year in college. And my friend Eddie was also on break. And we talked about it was a beautiful day, gorgeous day. We said, we should just take a ride someplace. Where should we go? Well, my mother told me we could use her car because I didn't have a car then. She had this real chick magnet for a guy, a 1965 Rambler American Classic 4-door automatic steel blue car. So we said, okay, Mom says I can use her car. Let's take a ride up to White Meadow Lake. Now, for those of you who are not from New Jersey, if you live in New Jersey, you're either shore people or you're lake people. The shore people, every summer, they would go down the shore. Now, I have to tell you, if you're not from New Jersey, it's the only state I know of that's on an ocean where when you're going to go to the water, you don't say I'm going to the ocean or I'm going to the beach. You say I'm going down the shore. And it's not down to the shore, it's just down the shore. So those people went down the shore, but the rest of us were lake people. So my folks had bought a house up on a lake called White Meadow Lake in northwestern New Jersey. And White Meadow Lake was this idyllic little town. It was a beautiful little place. It was a kind of place, it had no sidewalks, it had no sewer systems, it had no traffic lights. Well, I mean, unless you count the blinker light at Hibernia Road and White Meadow Lake Road. That was it. And it had 3 beaches around the lake. And just to tell you how clever the people of White Meadow Lake were, these 3 beaches were named First Beach, Second Beach, and if you want to say it with me, Third Beach. Exactly. So, and then there was also an athletic field that was creatively called the athletic field. And but everybody called it the A field. And at the A field, there was a baseball diamond you could play. There were tennis courts. There was all kinds of things that you could play sports. And there was a day camp. So if you lived in White Meadow Lake, from the time you were 5 till the time you were 16, you went to camp, which made it great for the kids and better for the parents, right? So that was White Meadow Lake. Well, Eddie, being my best friend, had visited me many times at White Meadow, and he knew the lake, and he was happy to go up there for a ride. So we went up, and we were driving around the lake on a road, which by now you know how clever they are with their names. The road was called Lakeshore Drive. And as we're driving around, Eddie's smoking a cigarette. Don't get too upset. Back then, a lot of people smoked. And he flicked the cigarette butt out the window. 2 minutes later, I'm like, Eddie, do you smell smoke? Well, the cigarette butt had gone out the front window and in the back window and lodged between the bottom of the back seat and the back of the back seat. And that's where the smoke was coming from. So I pulled over to the side of the road. I ran up to somebody's house, rang the doorbell, asked the lady if I could borrow a pot, took the pot down to the lake, filled it up with water. You might wonder why I didn't just ask her for a pot of water. I don't know. I was 18. So went to the lake, filled it up with water, back to the car, opened the back door, threw the water where the smoke was coming from, hoping that by the time my mother looked at her back seat, that would dry out. We get back in the car, we go driving along, and Eddie, you smell any smoke? Here it comes again. So this time, we go to the little firehouse that was in White Meadow Lake. We knock on the door, nobody answers. I pick up the phone next to the door and I dial the number and I say, we've got a little problem here. We got a little fire. We need some assistance. By assistance, I'm thinking that little red fire extinguisher that you have under your sink, right? That's what I'm thinking. Well, all of a sudden, all the lights in the firehouse go on. People start driving in from all over the place, volunteer firemen. The door goes up. 3 guys jump on the hook and ladder truck. A 4th guy comes running out saying, move that car, kid, we got to go to a fire. Well, when I tell them we are the fire, they are just losing it. They're cracking up, right? They think this is great. But by this time, testosterone and adrenaline are running high with these firemen. So they give us some assistance, but they don't come out with a little red fire extinguisher. No, 3 guys open my trunk and the back door and with axes, remove the back seat from the car, chop it up so that the 2 things are separate. And then 3 guys grab a pressure hose, takes 3 of them to hold it, and they blast the seat with the pressure hose. When they're done, the fire was out, okay? Eddie and I pick up what's left, this tangled mass of metal and fabric that was my mother's back seat, and we throw it in the trunk. We drive home. Eddie, being the intelligent guy that he was, asked me if I can drop him at his house before I go home. I do. I pull in my driveway, I open the back door, and I say, Dad, there's something I think you need to see. And that's my story.
Am I the only one who can't hear you, Karen?
Karen, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted for a second.
Oh.
I love that New Jersey down the shore thing that they say in New Jersey, and it never occurred to me that it was a funny thing to say till you just pointed it out, because I've heard it all my life. And yeah, that's why we need to tell stories to other people, so they tell us how silly we sound when we use weird expressions. Anybody else have an announcement? I've got a few more, but I'm happy to hear anybody else's. Yes, Marcia. I'm gonna try.
I just happened, I got an email from the Storytellers Project that is doing shows on the USA Network every, let me see what it says here, 5 o'clock Eastern time on, we are hosting online shows twice a month so we can keep up for our audiences without taking any chances with their health. It doesn't say the day, but July 23rd is the first one. And then it's every 2 weeks after that.
Thank you very much.
So I thought you might want to know.
Thank you very much for promoting that. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next storyteller is a veteran of our slams, and I'm going to unmute her. Let's give it up for Kiri.
Hey, everybody. It's funny that I'm following Larry because my story is about the same time in my life as his 18 years old. So when me and my mom and my stepfather moved to Florida, it was 1991 and I was 14. So I started high school, and I remember when we moved from Iowa in the middle of the country, small town, country town, to Boca Raton, or in other words, an hour outside of Miami, people thought we were moving into the fast lane. So we were accused of moving to the fast lane, whatever that means. But so when I moved down here, my favorite band was Motley Crue, and I was really into that kind of music. I had a poster on my wall, and it was high school era. And after a couple years of getting adjusted, I turned 16. I remember I got a car. I was very blessed, and I said to my mom, "You know what? I have a great idea. I really want to get a tattoo." And my mom said, "Yeah, that sounds really cool. Yeah, sure. Tattoos are great." And I said, "Wow, I have the most amazing, cool mom ever. She's totally on board with me getting a tattoo. This is great." And then as high school life unfolded, And, you know, I started to learn the area, make friends, and sort of explore in my new car, and still jamming out probably to some Motley Crue music at the time, even though I started to come around to Nirvana and things like that too. But I said to my girlfriends, hey, who else here wants to get a tattoo? And I had sort of rallied a couple friends with me to, you know, we're all on board on getting this tattoo idea. And so a couple years went by and I turned 18, and I remembered, now I can get that tattoo. I kind of, you know, life gets in the way, high school dramas, this and that, you forget about things, but it was always there in the back of my mind. So after I turned 18, I turned again to my mom, because we're really tight and like best friends. And even through high school, I was pretty tight with my mom. And I said, hey, guess what? It's time to get that tattoo, Mom. What do you think? And she said, no, what are you talking about? Kira, you don't want to do that. Come on, a tattoo, it's forever. It's really not a good idea. And I was like, shocked. I was so disappointed, because here I thought I had the coolest mom in the world that really got it, and she was on board. And so I was really disappointed that my mom had flipped the script on me. But what she didn't know is that I had already rallied a crew that was on board. And now that I was 18, it really didn't matter what she thought. So I said to my girlfriends, hey, who here wants to go get that tattoo with me? And I got my friend Robin, and I got my friend Heather, and I got my friend Karina all on board. And so all of us were going to get tattoos, except Karina, she wasn't on board with the tattoo idea. She was going to get her tongue pierced. So we get in the car in my red Mitsubishi Eclipse, and I'm 18. Probably the rest of them are 17. I don't even remember, but I think they're a year younger than me. And so we're driving down Federal Highway, heading towards Fort Lauderdale, and Motley Crue song comes on the radio, or probably a tape deck. And I don't know if you remember the lyrics. It goes, at the Dollhouse in Fort Lauderdale, which was a strip joint. And it really wasn't in Fort Lauderdale. It was in Pompano. And Pompano actually is where I got my tattoo. So we saw the marquee on the side of the road in Federal Highway, tattoos and piercings, pulled over, got out of the car, went inside, talked to the guys there in charge, worked out the designs. And I remember Heather went first, and Heather got her tattoo, and we were all, you know, I was into it. I was like, yeah, this is really great. This is so cool. My friend Robin got queasy and she nearly passed out. So she went outside and she chickened out. No tattoo for Robin. I was up next. I gratefully, happily picked out the spot where my tattoo would go. I remember distinctly feeling like it was an X-Acto knife cutting my flesh, and really a lot of pain over this tattoo. And, you know, to me, I thought it was like, you know, about quarter size, not too big. It was just a little bit bigger than a quarter. And I put it on the side of me, which not a great idea, not a great spot for a tattoo. And I remember the guy asking me, are you sure you want it right there on your side? And I said, yeah, go for it. And so I got the tattoo, and Karina was up next, and it was her turn to get her tongue pierced. And I remember watching the whole thing happen, where they have these clamps that they take your tongue and they pull it out of your mouth, clamp down, and then pierce right through the middle of your tongue. And so as they did that, I remember her face wincing in pain. And then he said, oops. And we were like, what? And he said, oh, I put it in sideways. I have to take it out and do it over again. And so he took it out, and then he redid the piercing, screwed the little ball top on, and we all high-fived in the parking lot on the way out. We were so proud of ourselves. And then on the way home, I thought, oh boy, moment of truth. What am I going to do? I mean, they had bandaged me all up. I was, you know, the bandage was maybe about this big with tape around it and everything, much bigger than the actual tattoo. And my mom and I were tight, so I knew it was going to go over well, like hiding it from her. Why bother? So I just walked in and I said, I did something today. And she said, what? And I said, I got a tattoo. And she said, oh no, what did you do? Let me see it. And so I remember very distinctly pulling my shirt up on the side and peeling back the tape and the bandage and showing it to her. And I'll never forget what she said. Her exact words were, "Oh my God, it's so fucking big." That's it.
I'm sorry, but Kiri, you are disqualified too. Any stories about tongue piercing, particularly when a tongue is pierced twice? I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting some of the rules. So no, that was quite vivid. And Kiri reminds me of an announcement that I have every slam I've done for the past 15 years or so. Oh no, I guess 11 because I've only been doing the show 11. If many of you have heard about this before, you can cover your ears. Some of you have been on this before, Midge and Barbara and Becky Joe, and I believe, definitely Ramona, and a number of you have been on this, and Marsha, the public storyteller, in fact, is just over. It took place at 4 o'clock on public radio, WLRN. This is an opportunity, and Kiri has done this as well. This is an opportunity. And Tanya, did you do it too? Yes. For you to tell your own story from South Florida. Angelica did it. And Jay, have you done it yet? I thought so. Annette, have you done it yet? Yeah. Then I don't know too many of you here. I haven't. I think Lillian too, I think, has done it. But some of you have not heard my pitch yet. If you are interested, or somebody who has a good story or is a good storyteller, even a story that is kind of ho-hum, although we haven't heard any yet today, but even a story that's kind of ho-hum in the hands or in the mouth or in the words of a good storyteller, people want to hear this stuff, and they are edited, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can do it on your phone. So if you are interested, please email me. I am not getting out as much as I used to, as you can imagine, and I am desperate for storytellers. So I will explain all the information. Even if you've done it before, I am breaking my cardinal rule and letting people tell a story again. So if you are interested, please email me, and it is no pressure, very simple, a story, just like the stories you're telling here. It's just that it has to have taken place in Florida. That's the only thing. Okay, our next storyteller is also a veteran of Vox. Very glad to see him again. I think there you are. I'm going to unmute you. Let's hear it for Jay. Jay, I'm trying to unmute you.
You hear me now?
There, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, there you
Well,
are.
first of all, I want to warn everybody that my story's R-rated, but it's not X-rated, okay? So just be aware, all right? Now, you folks can call me a misogynist, you can call me a pig, but you know what? I do like exotic dancing. People have this tendency of going to bars because they want to smoke, drink, find a companion, watch a football game. But you know what? I don't have such appetites. That's why I like to go to adult entertainment clubs. Now, some people will tend to call them gentlemen's clubs, but let's be real, there are ladies' clubs as well, but the only difference is the ladies are not as well behaved. Now, the striptease is really an art form, but as I see it, it has to be done with the following prerequisites. The club needs to be well-maintained and free of rowdy people. I don't like these colorful rotating balls. I like dim lighting with a small spotlight. A good dancer is sensuous without being vulgar. Of course, she's got to have a good sense of rhythm. And to me, conservative dress trumps erotic fetish type of clothes. Now, unfortunately, the real striptease barely exists today. That's not to say that creative self-expression is completely gone. Occasionally, we'll see a dancer who's devoted to her art form. Now, this one particular day, I recall this beautiful blonde-haired lady that walks into the club, and she's sitting all by herself in the corner of the bar. She's well-dressed, she's got manicured nails, two diamond stud earrings, and her clothes appeared to be well tailored. So initially I'm saying to myself, what is this lady doing here? Is she an owner? Is she an accountant? Is she the club's lawyer? And then all of a sudden her name gets called and she's ready to go up on the stage. And I'm saying to myself, my God, is this really going to happen? It did. Now everybody there was taken back. We all thought, where did this amazing lady came from and why is she here? And there she is. She's, her hands are moving along her hips and along the side of her breast. She goes ahead and she raises her leg along a straight back chair, and she undoes her garter and rolls the nylon stocking back. And then of course she does it to the other side. And everyone in the audience is very quiet and respectful. No one considers filling her garter until the performance is over. And everybody really knew that this dancer deserved a high level of respect. Now she continues with her performance and takes down her bra straps, and she begins to unhook her bra. She caresses her breasts slowly, artfully, and there was no rush to her performance. She moved on when she was ready, and not because the audience was chanting to get her to move on. Now her thumbs began to move along the side of her panties. She turns away from me, and she brought her panties down to her ankles. And with great ease, she walks out of them. Now everyone there is breathless. We're all caught off guard by the beauty of this exotic choreography. There's no whistling, no catcalling. Everyone that was an eyewitness to this were breathless. Now, to my good fortune, when she's done, she joins me at my table for a cocktail. I thought she would leave quickly and go on to meet other men. But fortunately for me, she's not in any rush. We had this very nice, cordial conversation, and it wasn't the real typical bar banter. She goes on to tell me that she graduated with a degree in engineering from a college in the Northeast. Now, perhaps I'm really starry-eyed, but I bought everything she was telling me. After a drink or two, we got a little comfortable with one another, and she quietly confides in me that she works for Pratt Whitney, which, if you don't know, is in West Palm Beach. And like an idiot, I look at her and I say, "What the hell are you doing here?" No sooner than I said it, I wish I could have taken it back, because who am I to judge this really nice lady? She told me that she was very passionate about dancing and she loved to be on the stage. She liked exotic dancing and she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Her work and her home were almost an hour away, so she was able to keep her unusual form of self-expression private. She goes home, and on one or two occasions, I went back to the bar to see if she was there. I went over to one of the bartenders, and he told me that that performance was the one and only time that she was there. That's it.
I'm sorry, but you're disqualified, Jay, because it was an R-rated story and not an X-rated story. All of us have been here alone for so long. We need some excitement. No, thank you very, very much for that. And that would be a great public storyteller story as well, Jay. Any of these stories that you're telling that take place in South Florida, even if you've done one before, I would appreciate your talking with me about it and telling the story into a phone, and we will put you on the air if you're interested. I have another announcement, unless somebody else does. Oh, I've got, Ramona, are you going to be telling today or no? We have no sound on you. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on, but all right, next time, I promise we'll put you on. So we've got 2 slots. If there's anybody, guest or not, who is interested, Alicia, was that no? No, okay. If there is anybody, guest or not, who is, a person who's a guest of somebody else's or whom I didn't invite myself. You are all on an even plane here. So anybody who is interested is absolutely welcome. We're not looking, as I said earlier, we're not looking for anything but communication. Tell us a story from your life. All right. So my announcement is this. My husband's Just the Funny, excuse me, I didn't mean to say Just the Funny. That was the old theater. My husband's Doghouse Theater has been closed now for 4 months, but they are doing shows online. He is an improv actor, director, writer, etc. Has been for many, many years, and a teacher. And if you are interested in seeing, they do a game show on Saturday nights that is archived. You can watch anytime on YouTube. And they do, remember when Woody Allen put words to a silly movie and What's Up, Tiger? Well, some of you do remember. Those of you old people who are 55 will remember. Anyway, they put words to a funny to an old movie, funny words to an old movie, and they do that on Friday nights. If you are interested, just Google YouTube Doghouse Theater. And then it's the show. The game show is Are You Serious? It's something like To Tell the Truth, except a lot more fun and more funny. It's storytelling. And the other one is called Read My Lips. And just Doghouse Theater, Are You Serious? Or Read My Lips. And you'll see what they've done. And I have to tell you, they were great on stage. I really like them. But on Zoom, it took a little while, but we watch them now every Saturday night. We watch both of them, and they just get funnier and funnier. So if you're interested in improv, it is really fun. Okay, our next storyteller. Let's give it up for Marsha. Marsha, I'm gonna unmute you. Oh, there you go.
Unmuted.
You are unmuted already. You're so independent. Go whenever you're ready, Marsha.
Okay, so my story takes place in New York, and I was also a teenager, just almost 19. I'm guessing from the music references Carrie made that it was longer ago for me than it is for her. Not quite as long as Larry, based on his first year. I was doing the math while you were telling the stories. So I was about to embark on the most amazing adventure that I'd ever been on when I was 19. But the story isn't about that adventure, which was going to live on a kibbutz in Israel. It was the only thing that I could do at the time that would make my parents go along with the idea of my temporarily dropping out of college so that I could go on a trip to Israel. And it was a kind of program where you get sponsored by an organization and you get all your paperwork through them, and they put you in touch with a kibbutz and you figure out which one you want to go to. So I was getting ready to do that. And in order to get the tickets through this organization and have everything happen, I had to go into the city, because I grew up on Long Island, so we know it's the city, not the shore. And I didn't go into the city often. I was, like I said, almost 19. My friends and I did go into the city, for shows on occasion or for various things. And so whenever I did go in, I always brought a round trip ticket. A round trip ticket, you go in, you see your show, you do whatever you're going to do, and you come home. Well, this summer I was working in Queens for my cousin, who was the manager of a car rental agency. And my cousin, one of my other cousins and I both worked for him. And so we would drive in to Queens. My cousin had a car. We would drive into Queens and work. And on this particular weekday, I said, well, I'm not going to go in with you because I've got to go into the city and pick up my paperwork and my ticket and everything for my trip to Israel. So I'll just meet you there. That was the plan. So now, mind you, so I don't buy a round trip ticket because I'm not going to go into the city and then turn around and come home. I'm going to go into the city and then I'm going to go to Queens and go to work, and then I'm going to drive back with my cousin. So I get into the city and I have left myself plenty of time. I don't start work till like 2 o'clock. I get in at 9 or 10, and I go to the office and I get all my paperwork. And then I didn't go in often, like I said, and I loved going into the city. I was like a wide-eyed tourist. You know, I just loved the crowds, and I loved, you know, all how different, because I grew up in the suburbs. So I'm walking around, and one of the things that's in the city that I'm not used to seeing in the suburbs is panhandlers and homeless people. And I'm pretty much a soft touch. I mean, I was then, I still am, although hopefully I've learned a little bit. So everybody that I see that's got a handout for money, or is playing instrument, you know, music for money, or whatever their spiel is, I give them money, and I give them money, and I give them money. And then I'm just enjoying myself. And I realized, oh, damn, I have to go and get a ticket to get from downtown to Queens to go to work. So I go into Penn Station and I go up to the thing, and I realize I don't have any money. I have given it all away, all of it. So I go up to the person, and, you know, the little round kiosk that they've got there in the middle of Penn Station. And I say, so I have to, and I don't have a credit card. So now what I did have in my purse, which I didn't think of till much, much later, was my paycheck. But I don't know if I could have gone, and I didn't have an account at a bank, you know, I don't know if I could have gone and cashed it, but it didn't even occur to me. So I go up and I explain my situation to the person, who tells me, I don't know if I'm on candid camera or what, but she tells me not to worry about it. I can get on the train, tell the conductor, and they will bill me for my ticket. I said, yeah, great. What could be better? So I continue, you know, wander around the city, and then I get on the train, and I always have a book with me, and I'm sitting on the train with my book and not thinking about anything. You know, I'm sitting in one of the seats where there's another seat across from me, and I got my legs crossed, and my foot is kind of resting on the seat in front of me, and the conductor comes through, and he says, "What do you think, you're at home?" He says, you put your feet up on the furniture at home? Put my feet down. I said, no. So right away, we have not gotten off to a great start. And then he says, so where's your ticket? Or he would sell me a ticket. And I said, well, I don't have any money. And the person in the kiosk told me that you would bill me. He says, really? Can you go on any other mode of transportation and not pay? He says, no, I can't bill you. You have to get off the train at the next stop. I said, all right. So I'm thinking, well, where's the next stop? This is Jamaica. So I'll be in Jamaica. I can get to the office somehow. How, I don't know, because, you know, you really can't ride transportation without money, as has just been pointed out to me. And this man sitting across from me says, please let me pay for your ticket. I'll give you my address. You can send me a check. And I'm like, you remember me about my last story I told here, Karen. No, I'm fine. I don't need any help. I said, no, I'm fine. I'll get off. It'll be fine. So he kicks me off the train. And I get there and I said, okay, so here I am. So I panhandle. I stand at the bus stop, and I go, excuse me, but I gave away all my money. Could you just give me enough money to pay for the bus to go to? And people start handing money out to me. I'm thinking, okay, so turnabout, you know, I'm being repaid for my good intentions. So I get on the bus, and I don't really know my way around the city. You know, I know you get into Penn Station, you get back to Penn Station, you drive into Queens. I've never gotten off in Queens. I've never been there on foot. And the bus turns and stops, and I say to the bus driver, so I need to go to such and such, is this? And he said, no, this is the end of the route for this bus. You have to get on another bus from here. He says, you can go to that office over there and they'll get you a ticket for the.
Oh, it's-
I said, yeah, except. So I go up to the window and I tell my story again. And as I'm telling this story, it starts to pour rain. And I'm standing there looking so pitiful, I'm sure. Pouring down rain. I don't have an umbrella or a raincoat. Telling the guy, I gave away my money and then I got on the train and he kicked me off the train and then I panhandled and I got on the bus, but the bus didn't go and I don't know how to get to my office. And he says, I can't stand this. He said, you have to go to this corner, you have to take this bus. Here is a ticket. Please, just take the ticket, which I did. And I got to my office and I went into work. A little wet, a little embarrassed, a little maybe more worldly than when I started out, and drove home with my cousin, which was a much easier trip home from work than it was getting to work. That's my story. Thank you.
And so this is the origin story of how Marcia became a professional panhandler. I always wondered how you started, and now we know.
It's hard to do on Zoom.
Right. Well, speaking of panhandling, it's a perfect segue. Hopefully it won't be too hard to do on Zoom. Putting this together at the bar was much, much easier financially because the bar took care of everything. And of course, we had the storytellers reimburse the bar a little bit for the opportunity to get into the contest for $100. Now the prize is $50 and a beautiful certificate suitable for framing. And I am paying for a couple of other things as well, Zoom and postage and this and that. If you are having a good time, it would be so delightful if you would chip in so that this can continue. I am not expecting to make a fortune. I just want to be able to cover my costs. So I would appreciate very much, and I thank so much the people who have already contributed. It really, really helps. There are two ways to contribute. One is by writing me a check, and you can email me and I'll send you my address. And the other is PayPal, doing it at personal PayPal. There is no charge, no fee, and you just send it to TOM, that's Tom Neile, Neile. And I also am on Zelle. I'll go through that if anybody's interested as well. It's a help, and I really appreciate it. And again, thank you to those who have done it. So, moving right along. Thank you, Marcia. It is time for Adele. Adele, we can't see you, but we know you're there. Adele, we can hear
my
you.
video.
We can hear
Yeah,
you.
technology.
There you are. We can see you. Wonderful. Well, I saw you for a
You can
minute.
hear me too, right?
I can hear you, but I can't see you anymore. I could see you for just a second and you've disappeared. But we'll do the best we can.
Well,
Listening to you is just fine.
How about now?
Can't see you.
I see you. I hear you.
Yeah, you might
hear
you have to
but I
move the
cannot
participants.
No. Don't
now
move.
I see you. You're over here.
I see myself.
Now I see you. Got
Okay.
it. I was looking in the wrong place for you. You moved around.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear it for Adele.
Yay. All right. Well, I decided today that it would be a good time to tell a story about viruses because we are going through coronavirus. So here's my story. Many, many years ago, when I was at the University of Mississippi at the Medical Center, I was training to be a nurse midwife. And back in the day, we were pretty lax about using gloves and mask coverings and things like that, although we did use them for deliveries there at the hospital and the birth centers that we worked in. That same year, that year was 1985, and I came back to Rhode Island, which was my home state, and suddenly the news was filled about this unusual illness, a virus that was causing immunosuppression problems, and people were coming out with cancers, unusual cancers. And no one that got this virus, supposedly, according to the news, lived more than 2 years. It was a while before we found out that that actually wasn't true, and that people did get the virus back there in '85 and lived for many years, actually, even before the treatments got good. Well, as it happens, a childhood friend of mine contracted AIDS, most likely from drug use. And I get the news, as typically happens. My mother called me and she said that Rita had died of AIDS, which was very, very sad. And I wanted a way to remember her. At this time I was living in Florida. I had moved down to Florida, and the Unitarian Church in Fort Lauderdale was putting together one of the quilts that was going around the country. So that the quilt was made 6 feet in length and I believe 3 feet wide. And I was actually doing the centerpiece for this quilt. Some people had put in pictures of their loved ones that had died, and they would adorn the picture with different things that they liked. For example, if they were a dancer or a musician or an artist, around their picture frame, they would have these little items that were added. And I put on a chalice, and around the chalice were the words, "Roots hold me close, wings set me free." It was a really beautiful, beautiful piece, and it had several memorials on it to people that we lost. And at that time, we were losing a lot of artists. A few years later, I went to go see to the Broward, I believe it might have been the convention center. They had all of these 6-foot quilts were on display in all over the entire place. There were just so many of them. It was heart-wrenching to think about all these people, mostly local people, that had died from this new novel virus. Are we getting some deja vu here? And it was just so sad to me. In being a nurse midwife, I dealt with blood and semen and body fluids every single day. And it was a little disconcerting to worry about these things. Viruses are things that attack us, and in some cases we don't have the immunity to fight it off. In that particular case, I don't know what the count is now, but every year now we have a AIDS Memorial Day, and we think about those people that we lost. And yet, even after I had made that, been part of making that quilt, I was still so sad and felt that I hadn't done anything enough to memorialize these people. Along comes the first Florida AIDS ride. Now, I hadn't been on a bike in about 20 years, but I signed up for that first Florida AIDS ride. It was a ride from Miami to Key Largo for someone who hadn't been on a bike for 20 years. And I started riding 3 miles a day, and every other day I bumped it up 2 miles, so that by the time I was ready to go on my ride, I had been averaging 21 miles a day on my bike. And I figured if I could do that many miles in a day, I could, go all day. I don't know. I was young then. So a friend of mine joined me on the ride, and we went, actually, I'm sorry, the ride went from Orlando to Miami. I'll cut this off soon. And we all wore rainbow sweatshirts, long sleeve shirts, as we went from Orlando to Miami. I did that ride, 265 miles, and I memorialized my friends, and I also got a bottle of liquor as a prize. That's my story.
Well, thank you very, very much for that story, Adele. Adele, I think that would be nice for the public storyteller as well. A nice Florida story. I wanted to remind you all. I know that we don't have so many events right now, and we don't have so many commercials for these events. But the MidgeByram.com website, MIJBYRAM, and you can see Midge right in that corner over there. She's waving right now. Is an amazing source, not only of information about the one and only Midge Byram, and I defy you to find another one, but also it's a fantastic place to always find events, ongoing events, as well as new events. If anybody wants to find out more about the public storyteller, if somebody wants to find out more about slams, somebody wants to find out more about concerts and classes and all kinds of things that are going on, Midge has been a fantastic promoter of all things storytelling for quite a while now, including the local storytelling guilds and the state and national storytelling organizations, and we couldn't do it without her.
Karen,
Yes, Mitch.
I have a couple of suggestions. I know people are at home. They might have a pen there. I have not updated the newsletter in the last couple of weeks. Things are always happening. If I may, Karen, interrupt you
Please.
to do this. There are always lots of virtual storytelling going on. You never need to be without a story. I'm going to call off a few top items that you can Google or find on Facebook that will keep you busy for quite some time. Maybe that's why I haven't updated the newsletter quite yet. Facebook has a wonderful group for teacher storytellers. Teacher storytellers. Just Google that. It's a great group. There are people always posting on there. If you know someone who's a teacher, they hold workshops and so forth, and have lots of good ideas. Some of us will be working virtually, and that's a great resource. National Storytelling Network. It's storynet.org. Storynet.org is a great one. Go to their calendar page. You will find so many different things going on, or their events page. And yeah, it's a great resource. ISC is the International Storytelling Center. I'm on their mailing list as well, and they have a guild that meets and sends out, they'll just send you the tape, and you can join them virtually, or they'll send you the what they've recorded. These are very accomplished storytellers. The other one I want to mention, just one more here, is Northeast Storytelling. And what the website is NEST, meaning Northeast Story, NESTORYTELLING. So it's Nest, which leads us into storytelling.org. And they have virtual guilds, world virtual guilds. So I am joining people from Australia, Israel, New Zealand, all over Europe and across the country, people telling stories. These are all free. You need to register so that you get the Zoom account, but I highly recommend tapping into some of these resources. If you want more stories, they are out there, and people are always looking for an audience, but they're also looking for new people that have not to join us. So those are my suggestions for some good resources there. If you need to know more, you can MidgeByram.com or MidgeByram at email. Gmail.
Thank you very much, Midge. And you are welcome to explore the whole world of storytelling as long as you keep coming here.
Yes.
And we love having you here. We do have another spot. Ramona, by the way, do you want to try your phone? It occurred to me you can always get onto Zoom on your phone. And that way you might be able to tell your story either with or without video. So try that while we're getting to the next storyteller. That's a possibility. Okay, well, we have now our next storyteller. I am very happy to announce, and I'm going to try to unmute her if I can find her. There she is. Let's hear it for Tanya.
Woo! Unmuted. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be sharing a story that's actually a truthful story. It's a real story that occurred in my family at my sister's wedding. And I always describe her wedding as being like a box of chocolate. So my sister learned very quickly that the wedding planning experience can be a very daunting exercise. There's so much that you put into it. And ultimately, you have no control on what happens on that actual day. So she planned a garden wedding back in 2016. She was very excited and put all the frills and fluff that a bride would put into her wedding. There was so much detail added to that wedding that we even had a dress rehearsal before the wedding and a dress rehearsal before the actual ceremony. So she had her 3 beautiful flower girls decked out in white, and she had the little ring bearer, the little mini ring bearer in his tuxedo, dressed out and decked, and everyone was ready to go. And in came the music. It's that old traditional song that you hear at every wedding. It's Pachelbel's Canon. So in came the processional. Everyone walked in fine order, well orchestrated. Everything as planned and rehearsed was going in concert. Made it down the aisle. The guests were all seated. All the wedding party is at the altar. And the pastor begins his homily. So he begins with this very deep sermonette, and he starts to talk about love in all its fine complexities. And the couple are standing there gazing into each other's eyes, and you could feel the love in the garden. And everything is going in full form. And then we get to that heightened part of the wedding where they exchange the deep vows. And then we get to the other climax when they call for the exchange of the rings, and it was just perfectly romantic. But the maid of honor standing there just happened to glance down at the pillow of the well-dressed and very handsome little ring bearer, and she recognized in her horror that one of the rings was missing. Where there should have been 2 brilliant rings sitting on the pillow, there was only one. The diamond ring, the 14-karat gold brilliant diamond ring, was missing. In the horror of the moment and her fright, the maid of honor quickly moved in motion and pulled her own ring off of her finger, aged ring by the way, on a smaller ring finger, pulled it off and gently placed it on the pillow. Understanding the anxiety that the bride had already been through, understanding the beauty of the moment of the day, she felt that this was the quick response that would have saved the moment in that elegant garden. So the call for the ring continued. And when the rings were brought forward, the groom stepped up handsomely, and as he tried to elegantly place that ring on the bride's finger, you saw her eyes glance down at the ring, and then back at the groom, and down at the ring, and you could feel the hair on the back of her neck rising. Not only did the ring not fit, the ring was aged, and the ring was tarnished, and the ring did not belong to her. You could tell that there was something unnerving and unsettling happening in that elegant garden. Something had changed. Even in the horror of the moment, the bride tried to keep that glamorous smile pasted across her face. She tried to maintain her composure, but you could tell a war and a storm was raging inside of her. So the wedding went on. The wedding went on, and the bride and the groom were married. And it was indeed a perfect day. Looking on from the audience, it appeared to be a perfect day. So they made it to the end of the ceremony. Everyone glided down the aisle. And the moment unfolded when the bride discovered that her 14-karat gold wedding ring was missing. So 3 days later, as the miracle would happen, there was a gleam in the field in this open garden that someone discovered the bling of the ring sitting nestled in the grass, and her ring was discovered. But the bride and everyone in attendance learned a valuable lesson. Even with our perfect plans, life indeed is filled with surprises, and your wedding could very much be like a box of chocolate. That was a truthful story about my sister's wedding.
which sounds very much like Forrest Gump, as a matter of fact. It's very important to remember that lots of things are like a box of chocolates. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Speaking of boxes of chocolates, this is a terrible segue, but I couldn't think of any way to get past it. Our guests are a gift to us. Our guests are a delicious gift. And when I say guests, I don't only mean the people I invited, but I also mean the people they invited who are not necessarily on my list. So if you want to be on the list that I will use to invite people every month, I would love you to be. My email is Karenina, Karenina, like Anna Karenina, except with a C, at bellsouth.net. The word bell, the word south.net. And that way you will get your own bright and shiny invitation on your email. I also come onto Facebook with this, so once a month, and that's my once a month on Facebook. And I am delighted to invite more and more. Because, I always think we're going to have a crowd and people are sure they're coming and some don't do and some don't. The more, the merrier. So we are so delighted that the people whom I did invite invited others. We really appreciate it. And as long as I've got an open slot, anybody who wants to tell a story is welcome to. Ramona, is your phone working? I can't hear you. Oh, well, but you haven't been unmuted. That may be it. So let's see if we can give you no, you are not muted, but I still don't hear you. All right, wait, what was that? Ramona? Nope, don't hear you. Okay, I'm sorry. We've got one empty slot, but we have one more storyteller. So our next storyteller is Midge Byram. Midge, let's give it up for Midge.
Okay.
There you go.
So you can hear me? Thumbs up? Got it. Okay. So I wasn't going to tell, but Carrie really gave me a wonderful prompt. She inspired me because I also have a tattoo story. Even though I don't have a tattoo, I was at a conference, and this is a big deal. I was one of the first that I had been to a storytelling conference. And if you go to these that aren't particularly involved with work, but rather people that you really want to see from across the country, you just want to socialize, you want to attend every workshop. I was busy networking, I was really engaged, and I knew that this was my time for me, and I didn't have to think about my husband, my daughter. It was my time. And so I had left my phone back in the room because you have to turn it off all the time anyway. Nobody was texting that much back in those days, but I did get a text when I went back to my room, and it was from my daughter, and she said, "Mom, text me as soon as you get this." And I thought, she knows where I am. She knows how important this is to me. I am not going to, no. And she can contact John if there's anything that she needs. So I let it go, and I went back and I engaged again with this place that I was and the people I was with. And then I went back again at lunchtime and I picked up the phone. It's important, Mom. It's really important. It can't be that important that she hasn't already contacted John, and he could handle anything. And John certainly isn't letting me know there's any emergency. Well, after lunch and the afternoon events, I get another message from Nikki. And she says, Mom, just write this down and send it to me. Well, once again, now, here's the thing. She's away working at a summer job. She's working at a Boy Scout camp, actually, in North Carolina, Daniel Boone Boy Scout camp. And she is the waterfront director, so she's old enough to handle all these little Boy Scouts. She's old enough to handle whatever is going on at the camp and her own issues. I didn't respond. I just thought, no, I'm going to resist. I deserve this. I resisted long enough that my input was not needed because she did it anyway. Because you know what this story's about. It's the same thing Carrie talked about. It's about tattoos. But by the time I heard about the tattoo, by the time she showed me the tattoo on her wrist, and she said, Mom, look, it's in your handwriting. And she said, I just wanted you to write it down so that the tattoo artist could copy it. But I just got all the letters and the cards that you sent, and he took a letter here and a letter there. And when I read what she had written, the quote she had chosen, she chose a quote from a story that I tell, that I believe in, that guides my life. And maybe it's actually, it just occurred to me, maybe it's appropriate for the situation that we are all in now, the situation of this virus. And the quote was, you may recognize it from the story of Solomon. It said, this too shall pass. She said, Mom, I wanted this so that when I feel really great and I think this is the best in the world, I know this too shall pass. But when I get lonely or afraid or not feeling well, I know this too shall pass. Plus, Mom, I knew you wouldn't get angry because it was your words in your handwriting. And she was so right. I couldn't get angry. Well, the thing is this too shall pass. It won't pass on her arm. It's still there. So keep this too shall pass in those times when we are all wondering when. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I've got one more announcement, and if we have no more storytellers, we have no, anybody else? Are you interested? What's your, Sanj? You interested? No, you're just moving your hand. Anybody interested to tell a story? I don't see anyone jumping up and down. So we're going to stop with 9, which is perfectly fine. While my judges are texting me their names, I'll remind you the criteria afterwards. I want to do a little bit of a promotion of my own. 2 books that I have written with the History Press. I was a writer long before I was a storyteller. And one of them is Florida Lore, which came out in 2017. And I see Tanya. Tanya's in the other one. But the first one is called, and so is Ramona. The first one is called Florida Lore, and that is folklore, folk narratives, myth, mostly legends from old Florida. You see on the cover Al Capone, who had his experiences here. You see Bone Mizell, and you see, of course, an alligator at the bottom. So there's that one. The other one, we've got Ramona on the cover as a little young girl. And we've got Tanya and Ramona's story inside. I interviewed them and 30 some odd other people around the state for their only in Florida stories. They're quintessentially Florida stories. So if anybody is interested, I am selling this to our storytellers and guests who are on our Zoom bot, Mad Zoom bot Slam for $18, and that includes postage. And
Can I say something?
Of course you can. Go right ahead, Annette.
I have the Florida Law, and it's a wonderful book full of stories, and I have enjoyed reading them. And they're so interesting and very well written. And thank you, Karen. I love the book.
Well, thank you very much for that
What-
plug. We agreed on I was sending you $5, or was it $7? We'll talk. No. Thank you so much for that.
What was the
plug.
name
I
of the
appreciate
second
it.
book, Karen?
The first one is folk narrative. That's Florida Lore. This one, we were supposed to have a big coming out party in April at the bar. This is only in Florida, and that is the true stories, not the legends, but soon to be legends. All right, let's see if I got my answers from my judges yet. I think I did. So let's see. Okay, we have one answer from one judge, one answer from another judge.
Karen, can I mention that
Go right ahead, please.
only in Florida, I just got my copy. I guess it was on my birthday, thank you. And I'm really enjoying your introduction. You really show off a sense of humor introducing these stories. A lot of them are humorous, not all of them, but I'm enjoying that one a lot myself.
Well, thank you, and that is definitely worth $5. So we'll make that work. Do you take PayPal?
Yeah.
Do you take PayPal? All right. So anybody else want to say anything about anything before I announce the winners? Okay. Thank you so much to my judges, by the way. I really appreciate it. What we did in the bar was everybody was voting. And I'm going to stop talking about what we did back then because that too passed and we're moving on. We're moving on. So a big thank you to our judges. Okay. So our first storyteller was Lucrece, who probably got out of her car. I don't see her right this moment. Lucrece told a father's story. Then we had Annette, the hot dog lady. Then we had Larry on the New Jersey shore. Excuse me, on the Jersey shore. Then we had Kiri, Life in the Fast Lane. Okay, well, I should actually point out the people. Annette, will you wave, please? All right, good, thank you. Larry, will you wave, please? Kiri, will you wave? Okay, I think people should always go around with name tags. It makes life so much easier. And then we had Jay, R rated. We had Marsha, Brother, Can You Spare a Dime? We had Adele, the AIDS quilt. Where is Adele? We lost her. I don't see her right now. We had Tanya, Lady of the Rings. Tanya, will you wave? And we had Midge, This Too Shall Pass. And our first runner-up is the person who I think really deserves to get something from all of us, even if it's a quarter on PayPal. Let's thank Marsha. Marsha, thank you for your story and congratulations. And this was a really, really hard contest. Everybody did really, really
Thank
well.
you.
And-
You know I'm a soft touch, so I'll be donating to the cause.
Well, we know. Why do you think the judges didn't name you? I just thought you're a soft touch. Exactly. This might help a little bit. Hey, if you had been a softer touch, you would have won. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh, we'll talk.
We'll talk. We'll talk. And number one for the July 2020 Slam is the person who is a class act, even when it comes to exotic dancers, Larry. Oh, wait a minute, Larry, you're not the exotic dancer man. I'm sorry. Let me say that again. Jay, I loved your story, but it was Larry. I have exotic dancers on the brain. Sorry about that. Let's start again. It was Larry, but I forgot. I got the stories mixed up. Oh, I see you. You know, it's the mustache, Larry. You look like you would spend a lot of time with exotic dancers. So let's start again. Is the man who all that's coming to me is lighting my fire. I don't know. I've got exotic dancers on the brain. Is the man whose story lit a fire for us all, Larry. Larry, I'm going to ask you please to email me your address. I've got Marsha's. Email me your address, please, and I will send you the prize. Marsha, I've got your address. I will send you the certificate. I have to tell you that this was an incredibly difficult decision to make for our judges. And each time that we do these slams, I am more and more blown away that not only by the quality of the stories, but by the quality of the listening. I know this isn't easy on Zoom. We are going to be back meeting together face to face, telling these stories and having a fun time afterwards and before, drinking our drinks, et cetera, et cetera. But in the meantime, thank you all so much. Judges, guests, storytellers. Let's hear it for everybody. We are meeting again. I wrote down the date. Sunday, August 9th is our next slam date. And we were hoping by then that everybody has their equipment perfectly calibrated for us. If you or somebody else wants to tell a story and is having trouble with Zoom or wants to be on it and is having trouble with Zoom, please, we've got our Zoom experts. Let us know ahead of time. Come on early and check with us because we don't want anybody to leave without your voice being heard. I thank you all. I tell you to be safe. I tell you to keep telling your stories. And above all, I want you to know how wonderful you are for keeping storytelling alive in our communities. Hopefully you already know it. Be well, everybody. See you next month.
Thanks,
Thank you
Karen.
so much.
Good job, everybody.
Bye. Great job.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Karen. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye. Thank you all. Fantastic storytelling.